Hey guys, welcome to a free talk video where I'll let you know kind of what's been going on, why I haven't been making videos, some stray thoughts. So I initially made this channel as a way to talk about gaming as a storytelling medium because I think it has such a tremendous potential. And I'm actually a filmmaker. I make movies, but I think once gaming embraces that potential, filmmaking is going to die. And that's the future I see, whether that be in 30, 50 years. We're going to see a future where these interactive experiences are so rich and engaging in ways that films can't be, and film will go the way of the dodo, so to speak. But for the time being, I don't think many games are really exploring it to its fullest. And I just don't play video games right now. I don't play anything. I haven't played much in months. I'll play Smash Bros with friends, but beyond that, nothing's really caught my eye. I got Sekiro because I loved the Dark Souls games, but kind of fell out of love with that because I didn't love parrying, and it kind of makes you parry. But essentially, I just haven't found the drive to make a video essay in a while. Because I make a lot of stuff. I'm a filmmaker. If you have any interest in checking out my films, I do short films, I do feature films, I do all sorts of stuff. And video essays were never something I was passionate about. I was passionate about the ideas I was sharing, but as far as the form goes, I think it's very tired and overdone, and everyone tries to do them. And I was just kind of mimicking rather than finding a unique way to do it, and that never really came to me. But essentially, so I did a video. I started a video, I recorded the audio to a video a couple months ago about the current state of gaming in comparison to film history. So to briefly describe that, I just stopped making it because I didn't want to do the editing. Because the editing of video essays is what doesn't interest me. I like the ideas, but I have no interest in compiling clips. But so essentially the comparison was, in the 1950s, television kind of took the world by storm. Everyone in America at least had a TV in their home, and television was offering these very quiet, personal stories and kind of killing Hollywood because people stopped going to the theater because they had these stories right in the comfort of their home. So to retaliate, Hollywood went big and stupid. That meant like giant spectacle films like your Gladiator stuff and, you know, giant sets, musicals, crazy like style over substance, because they knew TV didn't have the budget to compete with that, so they knew they could get people back in theaters by offering experiences that only they could offer. And arguably we're going through that again today with Hollywood's reaction to internet content. I think we're going big and stupid again with superhero movies and blockbusters and nothing in between. But my comparison was with the advent of accessible indie game development, complete with distribution. You could make a game yourself, you could distribute yourself. I really think that's where we're seeing gaming head right now. I think gaming is kind of trying to react to this new indie game scene where these people are making very innovative, personal experiences, and the AAA industry doesn't know how to react. Like there's this need to go big. So all these big games are offering stuff only huge budgets can create, like giant sprawling open worlds. That's why every game is open world. you know, massive storylines that are drawn out. Like every game is like 60 hours long for some reason. Like that's the problem that emerges. But the good sign is when Hollywood in the 50s went big and stupid, that's when independent filmmakers kind of emerged because they could finally own the equipment. The equipment became ownable. So you had things like the French New Wave film movement where not only were people able to make films themselves, but because they didn't have these restrictions of a Hollywood film, they were innovating. Like Jean-Luc Godard made the jump cut in Breathless, like the freeze frame in 400 Blows. Like they were experimenting with narrative forms and how the medium could actually tell the story. And this was all in reaction to Hollywood because they didn't like what they were seeing movies become. So what resulted from that is there became this profound want for experiences like that, innovative narratives and experiences. And that's why Hollywood of the 60s and 70s and into the 80s actually became pretty smart and daring and interesting. They backed some pretty amazing films during that time. And so the whole point of this whole spiel is that I think right now AAA games are big and stupid because indie games are offering personal and small stories and they can't do big and stupid. So AAA is doing what they do best. And the positive of that is I think we are seeing a giant push away from AAA games. Oh, shoot. I think we're seeing, oh my God, no. I think we're seeing a lot of people, sorry, I got distracted by getting eaten by an alligator. I think we're seeing a lot of people just completely disenchanted with the current state of gaming, whether that be, like I said, every game's an open world for no reason, stuff like that, or even the corporate greed stuff of microtransactions and DLC, stuff like that. I think we're seeing a lot of people become disenchanted, which is the perfect place for new voices to emerge, like the French New Wave. We have this opportunity for indie game developers to like tap into this complete exhaustion with how games have been made and find new ways to make games. And I think ultimately once that catches on, then we'll see AAA kind of follow suit and kind of adapt what these indie game developers do into grander experiences, which is an inevitable good, but we have to slog through the crap first. But yeah, that was just the general point of the video I recorded, but I had no interest in trying to edit it together. But I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just running around. I can't focus and talk at the same time. Uh-oh, my horse. Alright, so what was I gonna say? So I don't know. As far as games, I'd say Undertale was the first big game that just completely reinvented the medium. It looked at what was working or what had worked and just like found a brand new way to utilize it. And I think we're going to see a lot more games like that. Hopefully they're not just Undertale clones. I think there's more ways to explore games. But I think the crucial thing Undertale did was... Oh, the wildlife do not like me. I think the crucial thing Undertale did was its story was entirely driven by its gameplay, but it wasn't in your face. Like, there's a lot of games where you make A or B choices, like this or that, Like, I love, like, Quantic Dream games, but even those are, like, very black and white in their decision making. Whereas Undertale kind of, like, used your morality and your moment-to-moment choices to alter the story in a way you didn't know. People have talked about this to death. I don't really need to go on and on. People love that game. I didn't even like playing it that much because I didn't even understand what it was doing playing it. That's how subtle it is. But like reading about it, I'm like, oh wow, that's really smart. And it's all made by one guy, so that's the future. But that's my thoughts on gaming and why I'm really not playing them right now, because I'm just waiting for those indie devs to start cranking out the stuff that uses gameplay mechanics in a really interesting way to tell a story. Because I'm really tired of games that are just too gamey. You know, it's just like objectives and quests and whatnot. This is the last game I really enjoyed, Red Dead. The last AAA game. And I think it's because I was able to recognize it as the gaming equivalent of a giant blockbuster. Like this is video games like superhero movies. This is video games like Avengers Endgame or whatever. And I think what is really exciting, the big takeaway is that while movies are giving us big stupid superheroes as their giant properties, I think it's pretty amazing that like the biggest game of last year was able to be this like super quiet, slow-paced like Western. Like not even just the story, but the actual gameplay is very slow-paced, and it's like, if I could commend it for anything, it's that the gameplay is actually the genre. Like, you know, in movies, we have all these genre tropes. Like, we have, like, how Westerns look, like, very, like, brown and grainy, and, like, how they're shot with these, like, dramatic close-ups, and all these the cinematic language of Westerns is very established in film, and gaming was just kind of borrowing what film had done, and then this game came along and it started to use its unique mechanics to create a genre. Like, the language of the Western has been defined for gaming by this game. It's slow-paced, meditative, very much based around getting you absorbed in the world of a cowboy or whoever. So I appreciated that a lot. And I appreciated its narrative focus. I think that a lot of people, like, after the dust settled of all the hype of how amazing it was, because it's genuinely a super impressive game. You have hundreds of hours of content, like the best graphics ever, the best, like a 60-hour story or something crazy like that. Tons of side stuff that's all detailed. Like, I feel so, like, I wanna like stop and help this guy, but let me see what he's saying. Oh, he's one of these guys. So a lot of people since the game's release seem to have taken issue with how much it tunnels you down one path. There isn't a lot of freedom, and there isn't a lot of choice and player creativity allowed. It's pretty well an open world. It's a linear, story-driven experience masquerading as an open world, though I think the open world is absolutely essential to the delivery of that story. But so the complaint was, I saw Nakey Jakey's video. He said that it's like a a Lego set with instructions rather than like a big box of Legos you could do whatever you want with. And I think that's kind of true, but it's also missing the point, because at the end of the day, this game was like the most expensive game ever made. It cost millions, like 250 million or probably more. I don't even know the number. But for what they offered, I think they had to choose a path. If they wanted to give us full creativity and missions, like do what we want, they would have really had to trim back the narrative and the detail. They would have half-assed both things rather than go full into creating a video game Western narrative. And I appreciate that they went all the way in on just creating that narrative. I don't think the freedom of choice in gameplay would have complemented that well. And I think that's what you have to accept. This is video games blockbuster. This is the medium's way of just selling you on a world, I guess. And I don't think it's AAA developers' place to kind of give you these creative boxes. Instead, they could just use their resources to give you something very crafted and tailored. And I think they knew what they were doing, and that's what they offered. I don't know. But at the same time, there was all the controversy around the work week. People working 100 hours a week to get this game done, which is insane. And to me, it was a dilemma. I think a lot of people looked at it and said it's black or white, like people shouldn't work 100 hours. And in the case of looking at this as a corporate product, I'd say absolutely. I don't think people should work, like be forced to work 100 hours, or even like coerced, or like strongly suggested to work that hard. I don't think that's right. But if we want the video game medium to be an art form, I don't think art is built around a work week. And I think of all the great films of history. I don't think, like, this is a stupid example, but I don't think Orson Welles was like, oh, I put in my 40 hours this week, and he stopped working on Citizen Kane. You know, I don't think he said like, oh, I've done my work week on this movie. I don't think that's the way art mediums work. And I understand that if you're working for a mega corporation like Rockstar, it's a little different. But I just want to know where we draw the line as far as like passion goes. Because if somebody is passionate about what they do, they should realistically put in whatever time they can into that. So that was the dilemma for me. I mean, I don't think corporations, like I said, should make people work that hard. But I also don't know if it's so black and white that I think it's almost like selling the gaming medium short to act like it's solely a job. I think that's a risk we run into with every medium. We clump the art and the technical stuff together when it's hard to say they're the same. What else do I want to talk about? I think I touched upon this channel. I'm not sure I'll be making video essays again. I wish I didn't make this name so specific. I wish I could change it. I might change it when I release this video, just my gaming channel or something. Joel Haver Games. I don't know. But, so as I mentioned, I'm a filmmaker. I make films. I just released a new feature film online, and I make weekly short films on a different YouTube channel. And I'd really like to get into game design, and I've tried to sit down with Unity But it's the coding that really just blows my mind. Like, I can't even begin to comprehend like what I'm doing. I know it's just practice, 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 but for the time being, I'm just so focused on films while they're still a thing. That's my view on it, but I don't know. If you know any good games that you think use the medium to tell the story that I haven't heard of, they could be really small. They could be little things on itch.io or whatever. Just let me know. I'd love to play them because I'm just so burnt out on video games. Beyond Smash Bros. Very casually, I just haven't played anything. Anything else I want to talk about? I guess I could just talk about Red Dead a little more. I think a lot of people gave them crap for all the detail. And I think there is this dilemma that's like, are your workers working 100 hours a week to make sure the horses poop? Are your workers working 100 hours a week so he skins every animal? You know, it's these details that are nice to have, but like, at what point is it too much? I guess people have talked about this. I don't want to just recycle talking points. A game I enjoyed. That is tough to say. I think I just have such a big problem because I'm so disenchanted with the medium and the industry at large. Like, I used to be someone who'd buy any game. Like, growing up, I played games all the time. I'd buy any game that got like any coverage in like Game Informer. But nowadays, I just am hyper selective. I really don't go to games for the game. Like, I've shot things enough. I've driven cars enough. I've platformed enough. I've done it all. I go to games for the stories and primarily how they uniquely can tell their stories, because I don't think that has been explored nearly enough. But yeah, I don't know if you like this video, I'll do more long talks. I'm not somebody who likes Let's Plays. That's another thing I could talk about real quick, because like, I'm fine. I understand that the main draw of a Let's Play is the commentator. Like, that's usually the point. You're watching it because you like the person talking. But I take a big issue with them because at large they're turning video games into something that can and should be watched. And I don't think that's where the strength lies. I think you devalue the potential of the medium by making developers, like, pretty well urging developers to create games that will be watched. Like, of course, as a developer, if you're trying to turn a profit, you're going to notice that the best, most popular, best-selling games are the ones that get streamed and get watched. But then you're going to make sure your games are purely visual. When I think games are this. Games are the controller. They are what's in your hands and how that connects you to what's going on. And I won't get into spoilers, but it's like, imagine watching Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Like, imagine just watching it and not having that controller kind of connectivity, kind of link you to the story. Like, that's a game that cannot be watched, even though I'm sure it has many times. But it insists upon the controller, which is what I think gaming should do. They should insist upon how you interact with them rather than how you view them. And until that happens, I'm very disinterested. But I know it will happen, so I'm optimistic. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good one.